Hello again, Teacher Jeannie Castillo here on You the Mom.
Happy to be back.
So we run out of time in the last episode, and I'm happy that we're here again to bust more myths about our child's brain development and neuro-linguistic development and all. And we're learning so much from you. Some are a bit disruptive, I guess, but that's what learning is. As they say, there is growth in discomfort. And
Yes.
of course, just take what you can, right? Take what you can. But these are actual studies that have been done and proven, right? So whatever changes, little small changes you can do at home will be of big benefit to our children and their families.
Yes.
Right, Teacher Jeannie?
Absolutely. Baby steps.
Yes, baby steps. So, okay, so let's get right on to our first myth that we're busting today. And that is about teaching our children how to read. You know, these programs on how babies can read early. Babies, I'm not kidding, can actually read early through like flashcards, videos, just for them to learn about alphabets and numbers early because it will make them smarter. So, what is your take on this one, Jeannie?
Well, as you said, babies do have a capacity to absorb things. However, in terms of how the brain works, think of it as a hierarchy, and that the brain needs to have a solid, strong foundation from the bottom up. Meaning that our main preoccupation for young children in terms of wiring their brain needs to be based on their senses, on using their senses, their whole body, rather than having them just absorb information up here at the top of their brain. If we just continue to pour information from the top of their brain, right? Like that, when I talk about the top of your brain, this is the part of your brain that is responsible for knowledge and cognition and, using your actual abstract learning skills. That can only be very well stabilized if the bottom part of your brain is strong first. So if you load all of this academics on your child early without having a foundation, you're going to burn out your child, and you're going to have them probably they might learn some concepts, but in terms of other things like being able to manage again their emotions or to socialize or to be comfortable and calm in their own bodies, those things may not be wiring the way that we would like them to.
Okay. All right. So let's note that, moms and dads.
Yeah. No rush for the academics. No rush for the academics. Think in terms of early childhood development. If we want to run to the finish line already and teach our children reading and writing, it's the equivalent of entering kindergarten and expecting your child to do calculus.
Yeah, correct. And actually, like when our kids go from drinking milk to solids, it's not because they're not ready to. Well, it could be part of that they're not ready to taste flavors because of allergens or whatever, but it's really because of the development of our child's palate and tongue, right? So it's like there's a certain age that they can already like actually move the food in their mouth. So there are reasons for that. So maybe in the same sense with the brain, it's the same thing, right? There's a time for everything.
It's exactly the same thing. It's like if you want to teach your child, like if you want to introduce them to a book, you won't want to like read them Harry Potter right away. You know what I mean? Or no, you just really want to start off with developmental stages. And before you can even reach the place of being able to identify letters and numbers, there's so many other wonderful milestones that children should experience with their senses. But they say that in Scandinavia, for example, in Norway, in Sweden, in Denmark, where all of the early childhood philosophies are very about nature.
Right.
Children don't even
Like the
ever.
Waldorf education.
Yes, they're not even expected to
Yeah.
read or write until well into their later years.
That's right. Okay, so let us not rush rush our kids.
No rush. It
Okay.
could actually kind of,
Yeah,
put our children back if you overload them
that's
too
right.
soon.
That's right. And how about organized classes, like enrolling them in different classes? Like the myth about the children should start attending organized classes as soon as they start walking or if they're close to preschool age. Is that actually a myth?
Well, it's a practice that I've seen where a lot of families will wait and say, okay, I'm not going to enroll my child until they're walking yet or until they're ready for school. I would say the choice really depends on what sort of class you're enrolling in. Like, you won't want to enroll your child necessarily in a reading or writing class at that age, but being enrolled, say, for example, in what we do in kinder music, where everything is sensory based, can make a very huge difference in terms of preparing our children's nervous system and their brain for higher learning. Because oftentimes when children go to school, right, we think, okay, I need to wait until they're ready to go to school.
Yes.
But in what we do in kinder music, we are helping the brain to get ready. We're
Yes.
stimulating and activating the nervous system so that when it is time to learn the reading and the writing, all of the foundational skills have been developed. And it's,
I love
there's
that.
studies also that so many studies in Europe, in the UK, for example, or Australia, about children who, when they do go to school, what we don't realize is that they don't have the literal skills in place to be able to sit still in their chair, to be able
Right.
to retain auditory cues from their teacher, to be able to scan words on a page without losing their place. All of
Right.
those things that are necessary to learn happen from birth through the early years when children are allowed to be on the floor. When they're able to
Right.
roll and move their
That's true.
bodies and jump and crawl and stretch and move to music, because that's what gets the brain gear, the actual hardware to kind of
That's
work
right.
together.
Okay, might as well ask because I have friends who have problems with online learning because their kids don't even want to sit on the chair.
Yeah.
So,
How old are they?
I think, well, it's preschool. So I think maybe 5 or
Yeah, children need to
they're
move.
not. Yeah, so it's okay. Like if they're like going all over the place, or how does that? Or is it too early to enroll? Well, because now it's online, so they really need to sit down and be on the screen. I guess so.
Not
It's a whole different
necessarily.
story.
We've been
Yeah.
teaching online, since pandemic last year in March.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if your children are going to like a formal academic program, then I would recommend please do get into a class like kinder music or something that is movement based. In our case, we use music and movement to help to regulate the body, because we call, in formal learning, we call those brain breaks, right? Our brain needs to feel the body stretching and moving. So if you're coming to kinder music, that's all brain work to help our children feel more comfortable and calm in their bodies so that they can focus. Even us adults, they say we shouldn't be in front of our computer for long periods.
That's
and so
right.
they say after 20 minutes, you need to walk, you need to have a drink of water, you need to look up.
Yes.
Experiencing movement in their bodies and in the room, relation people in the home, and then spend time to really sit and do table work for still even older age. But like I would say, every child is unique, and just like out of the gate, they are they're comfortable in their bodies, they're excited with the world, and when that happens, but then there are some children maybe who might have some delays, for example, in their language, or they might have some differences in terms of their management of their own back and say, pero okay naman siya sa ABCs niya. He knows his 1, 2, 3s. He can identify things in a book. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean, that it's not all about being able to do the academics. Because if you see differences that will require more stronger foundation from the bottom, so that
Yes.
those can be it. Because it's possible
Right.
you might have offshoot of skills, because things can still, it's like planting seeds. You
Yes.
plant
Right.
seeds, and sometimes things might sprout, like even at the top
Mhm.
of a high of having more fruit, if you really work on a very strong soil. Absolutely.
Um, Maybe let's talk about the manifestations just to make it more real to
Yeah.
parents, like more concrete examples. So, for example, when I go to basketball school, I
Mhm.
noticed some boys were run tiptoes. Like some boys were running 8 or 9 year old, or maybe even younger. Like they were running on tiptoes. So, what kind of signal does that send a a neuro
Yeah,
movement
neuro
expert?
movement. Neurodevelopmental movement, I would say, is
Yeah.
that there are some reflexes in the nervous system that
Yeah.
are highly active. So basically, that would be a cue that there are some very active reflexes in the nervous system.
Yeah.
And normally, okay, when you think of reflexes, think about like
Mm.
when you go to a doctor and then they tap your knee, and then your leg
Yes.
pops out, and it's something that is involuntary, you cannot control, right? You
Yeah.
can't control it. When we're born as babies, brain comes equipped with a list of reflexes for our survival, to just kind of say,
Mm.
you can survival state, you know
Yeah.
then those reflexes need to be addressed by moving your body. They're
Mm.
literal sensory, to receive, in order to
Yes.
can now go to sleep. In the first year of life,
Yes.
that's why movement is very important. That's why attack on tiptoes, that is related to a particular reflex
Mm.
that is causing them to do that involuntarily. On they move in their bodies, it might have language development, have an effect on things like sensitivities to for older children who are still wetting the bed, things like that. It can have an
Right.
effect on people who get vertigo, or who have balance issues, who later on in adulthood, who are more prone to anxiety, more prone to depression,
Yes. Yeah, I was about to
because
ask about
yeah.
mental health. So we know that it's really becoming more prevalent, or maybe because of awareness as well
Mhm.
about depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
uh, and all these mental issues, mental conditions. So now that we're learning, also connected to movement. So
Connected to that, and it's also
yeah,
connected, those reflexes, say they do get integrated, it is
yeah,
possible for them to be reactivated in adulthood, due
yeah,
to things like injury, due to things like like extreme stress. And
yes,
so then your survival reflexes get reactivated. And
yeah,
so that's that's why the movements are very important, and feeling comfortable in our own body is very important, because it
yes,
calms those reflexes in the nervous system, so that now you can be available to do other things.
yeah.
Because if the reflexes are still active, then you're constantly in survival state.
That's right. So the myth that we're busting here is that children's personalities determine whether they may be moody, clingy, anxious, shy, hyperactive, physically forceful, or rough. Or like we always say, ganyan talaga siya, 'di ba? Or yung anak ko ganito, but really it's also connected to the development, 'di ba?
It's
So,
connected to the wiring, to
yeah,
the
to the
neural
wiring,
wiring. It's like,
right?
if we're talking about wiring a house again,
Yes.
like if you've ever experienced, like when you're constructing a new house, there are people who have to check the cycles of electricity,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's highly possible that, the cycles are not yet fully
Yes.
regulated, or some individuals' nervous systems are constantly in overdrive, because they
Yeah,
have a
right.
very highly
It's an
active,
overload of
yeah,
amperes in there.
yeah, there's a highly overly active brainstem, for
Yeah.
example, or it's underactive. And
But
so
Jeannie, what about conditions like ADHD or like bipolarism and all that? Is it connected as well? I assume it is.
it is,
And
it is.
yeah.
So I can just speak from, again, the neurodevelopmental aspect, because there are a lot of
Yes.
different ways to come to those diagnoses. But what I can say on a neurodevelopmental kind of plane is that
Yeah.
it's been proven through lots of studies that children, for example, who have been diagnosed with ADHD or autism or anxiety or depression, if we were to check their sensory system for these active reflexes, they will likely be present. They're very, very active. And so there are movements that can be done, and stretches and exercises and sensory experiences that we can deliver to the body and introduce to the body that can actually calm those reflexes. And when that happens, then the behaviors that have been labeled as ADHD or autism or anxiety and depression can actually dissipate. They can become less predominant.
Okay,
Interesting, isn't
wow.
it?
It's super interesting.
Fascinating.
And I know that you've done work with some kids already, like even your two boys, and you've seen it,
with everybody.
seen the actual results of it, right? So
I have.
yeah. So maybe we can go to the solutions part.
Sure.
Right now, Jeannie's Kinder Music families are benefiting from it, like the way she incorporates all these learnings in the sessions themselves, the Kinder Music classes. But she's also starting to offer them the program itself. So I called it, I have a name for her program, but it's just mine. I call it Brain Love.
Brain love.
But lucky for us, she's going to be eventually offer it to anyone who wants to learn and also find solutions and help their babies and actually even older children, right, to benefit from the program.
Even us adults, because, well, here's something I want to put out too, is that, remember, we at the very beginning of our talk sharing about the importance of children attuning to their parents, right?
Yes.
Attuning to our parents' energies. So our children's development and the integration of their senses can only go so far as the adults' energy will teach them, right? So in order for us to be able to teach our children calm, collected energy, we need to radiate that to them.
That's right.
So even for adults, this can be very beneficial.
So guys, it's helped me a lot too.
Yeah, it's very, very important, because it's like
It really makes a lot
we
of
are the
sense.
source of energy for children.
So like, do you realize like when you get home and the energy that you bring in when you get home, like if you're stressed, the whole house is stressed.
Yeah.
Like, so that's how important it is for us to also be able to regulate. So Jeannie, tell us about your program. Like, I'm sure it's like all abstract to them. Like, how does it work? Like, do you come in and do you do tests and then eventually like prescribe like a program? Or please share with us your
Yes.
well, my name is Brain Love program.
Brain love. Well, first off, I am offering parenting webinars through our Kinder Music community. You can contact us to learn about when the next one is coming up. But they're parenting webinars to really learn and see information and slides and diagrams and examples of movements that you can be doing, so that you can get a better idea of how to incorporate this, into our regular interactions, daily lives with our children. But then on a personal, individualized level, I will be available soon for consultations, even for teleconferencing through Zoom. And there are assessments that we can do where we'll invite parents first to just kind of go through a little bit of discussion and answer some questions. Things like, the birth history, delivery.
Yes, right.
Things like any sort of medical intervention that might have been present when children were young.
Hang on. So about being the birth. So we talked about this in one of our chats about if you were born premature, or if you were induced cesarean or natural. I mean, there are um effects on the child, right?
There's
So that's
effect. I won't say on the nervous system. Like
on the
if we
nervous
want to
system. Yes,
be
on the nervous system.
scientific and
That's right.
very much just objective about it, the nervous system
Right.
is, remember, it's 100% experience dependent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if there's a lot of stress and trauma in our earliest experiences coming out into the world, then that will
Okay.
affect the nervous system.
Okay, so does this include while the baby is in utero, like pregnant? While we're pregnant and the baby knows all our energies and can hear us, our tone of voice, that far back? Okay.
Yes. Yes. That's
Because
why
I
we
used to go ahead. Go ahead.
So that's why in kinder music, I'm so about like positive vibrations and energy and how music can help to soothe us and calm us, because the frequencies matter. Frequencies
That's
really do
right.
matter. But again, like when you're talking about birth and everything, the literal medical interventions or things that have influenced our body, our physical matter.
Wow.
That will affect the nervous system. So
Because I was born October 31, but my mom's due date was November 1. But she didn't want me to have a birthday, November 1 birthday, which I'm thankful for because everyone will be in the cemetery, diba?
Yes.
So she had me induced.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking maybe that's why I'm always nagmamadali. I'm just kidding. I mean, I wonder what the effect of that on me is, right? But it's really interesting. Like, there's so much to learn, Jeannie. So in your webinar, you'll talk about that as well.
I'll talk about that, and then if you come for the individual consultations, then we'll do kind of like a history and learn about what our children have experienced and the family history and all of that. And then there will be some assessments and questions to answer, and then there will be a physical assessment where we'll ask you to help me be able to see through the screen certain responses, because we're checking for reflexes, remember. So just like the doctor can check and tap your knee, there are certain movements that we can do and see what sort of response will come out in the body.
Yeah, we've done that in one of our Zoom dates. Like I did like the drunk test, like you walk in the street, like something like that. So it's nothing scary. It's really like
it's nothing scary at all. I mean, it's just interesting to see the responses that you don't really notice, you're not aware of. But even in things like eye tracking and eye movements, or touching response to touching your nose, or we've said before, like even from a very basic level, if you see a child startle easily, or even us adults, if we startle easily, or somebody throws a ball at you and you're like, oh,
I'm like that, Jeannie. I'm good at it.
So that's a reflex that's active there.
Maybe that's connected to why, because I was induced. Mom, hello, Mom, if you're listening.
Yeah, but there are movements that if you find out that you have an active startle reflex, what to do? Then that's when we come in and we will, I'll recommend certain movements and exercises and games that you can play with children, the actual games that you can do. We do a lot of them in kinder music, introducing a lot of rhythm, because rhythm is very regulating. Again, remember, like that heartbeat, and the parts of the brain that are responsible also for the fight or flight, they are influenced by rhythm. And so if we can introduce rhythm into our regular activities and experience, that is incredibly calming for the brain, like incredibly. So which is why I can't stress it enough, when parents come to class for kinder music, the movements of their own bodies will affect the children's acquisition of rhythm. Because oftentimes parents will just watch their children and wait and say, okay, let's just go and see if they're going to respond to the activities, or let's just go and take pictures of them while they do that. But remember, a child is waiting to regulate to a power source, and that's us as adults.
That's right.
And so we need to be that generator for them. And when we are rhythmic in our own bodies, in our own presence, that's incredibly soothing. It is so comforting for the brain.
For the kids.
For the children. Yeah.
And it's also like a cycle. Like the parents, I don't want to generalize, there are parents who who don't join and dance because of whatever reason, and there's no judgment there. But
Yes.
it's because the parents themselves are not comfortable dancing. I have friends who like, oh, I don't dance or I can't do that. Or maybe body sense is not developed. They weren't exposed to moving a lot and all.
Yeah.
So I guess being a mother or being a father to the kids and knowing that those things that you said about how it can benefit them if we just do it, right? Get out there and connect with their children through movement and rhythm. That
And
we
I think,
break that cycle. We break that
yeah,
cycle of or not having that benefit growing up, and then us, and then our kids, right? So
and
like
think
me,
of
I
it
all
as
used to
another
think that I
R.
was
Think of it as the
go
other
ahead.
R. Instead of like
Other
us
R.
parents focused on
Yeah.
reading, arithmetic, writing,
Yeah.
rhythm.
Rhythm.
That's the
Correct.
one that's most foundational because the
That's
rhythm affects everything else. If you can have
right.
rhythm, language, it's easier to learn arithmetic, right? If you've got
That's
rhythm,
right.
you're playing instruments, then it's easier to hold a writing instrument, do the writing. So sorry to
Right.
interrupt you, but I
Oh,
just need to get it
nice.
out. Yeah, you were gonna say.
I love that, Jeannie.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, I was talking to Reese yesterday about, because I told her that we were gonna meet up today, and then so I was telling her, do you remember when I was with you in kinder music class, dancing with you, stuff like that? And she says, yeah, I remember. Because I said, so how was I dancing? How was I dancing? She says, your usual dance, like your usual mommy dance. but but she
Yeah.
does remember, and it sticks with them. And to think Reese was with you for when she was, I think, 3 until 7, right?
I know. I have pictures. I think even younger than 3. I would say maybe even like
Yeah,
2. I've seen pictures
maybe
of
2.
Reese even
Hello.
2. But here's a quick, easy
Yeah.
way to check, right, on how your rhythm is as a family. Is that it's how easily can you sync up your waves, your frequency together, right? If you're constantly having to like call, shout out to your child, there's a struggle there. There's obviously a disharmony, needs work, right? But easy that you and your child are communicating well. There's not constantly a right. So that's just basic music. Parents invest the time to be in a class with their child, and they are intentional about creating the attunement. They're intentional about moving with their child and playing and interacting with the child and being present. Over time, the communication is easier. They move. It's like the children learn how to imprint on their parents, like a little baby duck, right? They fall into line much easier.
So like it's like literally moving the same rhythm to the same rhythm of life, right? So
it's a phenomenon. It's called entrainment. Like that's the scientific word. Even things like clocks. There's also a study done about grandfather clocks, and if you bring them in and you deliver them, say, to a showroom in a clock store, maybe they're not literally yet in sync, but eventually then they start to swing in sync. Or like us women, because we're on You the Mom. We know the phenomenon when you work with women in the workplace, what happens? Your monthly cycles end up syncing, don't they?
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Same thing. So when you are moving and dancing and you achieve a sense of rhythm in your home and in your own body, your child will be able to connect more easily with your magnetic field.
Right.
So
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's nice. So as a last question on myths is well, not really a myth, but I know there's a lot of concern with parents now with online learning about how our children will grow up differently, in quotes, because they don't have face-to-face interactions with their teachers and their friends. Should we be concerned about like the current normal that we are in? And it looks like it's gonna be until whole of next year too. I know.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, the state of our entire world now is of concern. Everything is of concern, right? And things are not the same. However, I will say that there are still ways that we can address our children's developmental needs. right? We may not be able to be in a physical space together, but after being online for a year, teaching over 1,000 classes, it's been over 1,000 classes.
1,000 classes during the pandemic. That's her
Over
record.
1,000. I know, right?
So in 1 year.
1,100 very soon after this month, because it's like about 100 classes a month. Yeah, so it's possible to still have a connection with teachers and classmates. I see it every day.
Yeah.
I see children's faces light up. I see their countenance change, their disposition, their energy changes when we are in a class experience online. I see children forming friendships. I see them developing social skills, learning to wave, learning to wait. So it's a different I share with parents is that especially remember develop a relationship with parents. And so if anything, the being at home all the time is develop that in a way that we might not. The main opportunity here is for parents to just occasion and recognize our role. Just really think, oh, you know, I'm here, we're at home, but I have to work, or different times you see caregivers. We've got a lot of caregivers who are awesome, they're excellent. But then again, there are some, like there's a mentality with caregivers that I'm just here to parang magbantay. I'm just going to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm bantay lang ako. So what that is a child is walking around without a compass. Okay? They're walking around without a compass, and there's a caregiver that's walking around following them, and they're just kind of both walking through the woods together, you know, versus walking through the woods and having a guide. That's very different, right? And so that's the role of an active, present parent or adult or anybody in the home. That can make the difference.
Okay. That's good to know. Because at least with so many concerns that we have now, at least we know that's not really a concern if we use it in the right way, right? Just be involved with our kids. And that's what really matters. So okay. Is there anything else that you wanna bust?
I know, I'm so sorry. I have so much to say. One more thing.
I know.
It's just, I don't want parents to feel stressed. I don't want you to feel stressed. Okay, now I have to be involved. And now I have to really think about this. Because remember what we said, when parents are distracted or they're stressed, then your brainwaves aren't fully present. The trick is to be present and playful. Play. Yes. Be playful with your child. Be light.
Have fun. Correct.
Have fun. Listen to music. Sing. Dance. Yeah. That will help you just naturally sync up.
That's right. I agree. Totally agree. Yes. Yay. Thanks for that, Jeannie. Now okay, are there other myths?
Not fully developed until the age 25. Too much latitude to make. That is also appropriate for them. Yeah. Do fun, you know, being guided, having and provide a sense of security for them. Because if you give children too many, they do not remember what we said. You need to feel a sense. We're also saying parents of our parenting style. And
giving them a sense of a choices. Actually.
Yes, you can still give
of care.
It's a form of care. It's turn that we some sort of engagement and interaction, not all, okay, I'm just going to follow whatever you do. I will just indulge you. I will just give you this. I will give you that. I will give you this. I will give you that, without any sort of parental presence. Right? Because if they're feeling will, and all center.
The helicopter parents, like how does that affect the children? Like if it's no choices or else.
There's not being content and explore. So that's the main ingredient is required is there's got to be a present parent
who is playful and fun and light. You know, it's not like rigid.
Playful. Children aren't able to learn about
balance is the key.
Balance is the key. Balance is the key.
Okay. Wow. So thank you, Jeannie. I learned so much, and I wish I could turn back time often when I talk to you. But at least knowledge is power, and we can always do something about it, right? So thank you for listening in today. I think if you're listening to this podcast, there's a reason why you're here. So use the knowledge to your benefit and spread the word. Spread the word about these new programs of Jeannie, and even just share this podcast with someone. When I'm with her, I always learn new things. And thank you everyone for there's a part 1 in this series. So check that You the Mom podcast. So celebrated and cherished. So from us to you, we say you the
You the
mom.
mom.